my so-called porting is done. It's not porting really, but let's call it that for the sake of this project. So now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to test all the valves and valve guides for deflection. So according to service manual, what they want you to do is you need to put your valves in and then pull them out, so the distance between the valve's face and the seat is about 10 millimeters. So this is the setup I currently have here, and then you're going to be checking the deflection of that valve in that guide in y-axis and x-axis. So let's set up the dial indicator to 0, and then I'm going to be moving this valve, and what I get, maximum movement is, oh there we go, I get 20, okay, so it goes from 0 to about, if I push it, 26, from 0 to about 2600th of a millimeter, which is good because the service limit is 3500th of a millimeter. So deflection in x-axis is good. Now I'm going to have to change the position of the head, and we're going to check movement in that direction. So I've moved the cylinder head, so now I'm going to be checking the deflection of this valve, this exhaust valve, in that direction. So I've got my dial indicator set up to 0, and let's have a look what we get. So I can get it up to, from 0 to about, if I push it, oh, so I can get it to about, hang on a minute, okay, so set up to 0, (25) 2600th of a millimeter. Okay, so that's cool. This valve is okay. Alright, so now I'm going to go over the intake valve. Let's clean it nicely. Put it in. Make it stick out by about 1 centimeter. And so this is going to be the same limits for intake and exhaust valves. For the RF900, service manual says this is going to be 3500th of a millimeter being the service limit. And let's see, let's just move it all. Okay, so I've got it all set up, intake valve here. I'm hoping you can see the dial indicator being set to 0, and I'm checking the deflection in x-axis, and that is brilliant because all I can get is about, wow, 1300th of a millimeter, which is fantastic, way below the service limit. Okay, let's now move it and check the deflection in y-axis. There's a bit of a bummer because I've got a dial pin here. You can't see this, is just behind this dial indicator, which I'll show you in a minute when I remove it. So this is why I'm going to be checking it at somewhat of an angle. I'm hoping this is not going to distort my measurements, but anyway, you can see it's set up to 0, and I'm now going to do my little movement. Okay, so the max I get here is about, oh, okay, I get about 20/100th of a millimeter. Beautiful, so that's still within the limit. And now if I move it, you see there was a dial pin here, so it made it kind of awkward to set up dial indicator, but there we go, this valve is okay too. So we're going ahead with another exhaust valve. This is the second exhaust valve on that particular cylinder. Dial indicator set up to 0, and let's check the deflection in a y-axis. So I get about 17/100th of a millimeter. Oh, actually no, up to 20. So 0 up to 20. Yep, okay, so 20/100th of a millimeter. Beautiful. Alright, so once again checking the x-axis, and what I get, if I push it, I get about 2200 of a millimeter. So still within the limit. Alright, so the last valve I'm going to film here, I'm not going to film all 16 because it's the same process, so you understand. You've got to check the deflection of the valve in x-axis and y-axis, and the service limit is the same for both intake and exhaust valves, which is 3500th of a millimeter. I've checked those 3 valves and they're all great, so it's all set up, and I get about, if I push it, I get about 1800th of a millimeter. Sorry, no, about 20 actually. 2000th of a millimeter, which is great. Okay, that's going to be interesting, setting this up. Okay, so I must admit it becomes more difficult to set up this dial indicator, but I've managed again somehow. So let's check it. It's set for 0, and we're checking deflection in y-axis, so hopefully you can see what's happening here. What I'm getting is about a tad below 2000th of a millimeter. So anyway, that's how we do it, folks. I don't think I'm going to be filming all 16 valves, because doing that I'm going to be filming it till tomorrow, and the service limit for both intake and exhaust valves is 3500th of a millimeter. I'm going to continue checking all of them, and I'll see you in the next part of the video. Okay, so moving on. Now I'm going to be testing the valve springs, and the Suzuki service manual says that free length of those springs should not be less than 43 millimeters. So let's have a look what we've got here. What I've got here is 44.75. So that spring is good. So let's move on to another one. So they're all the same when it comes to exhaust and intake. Service limit is just the same. And that one is, can you see this? 44.23, which is good. Way above the limit. Alright, let's check the third one. And what we get here is 44.50, and the fourth one what we get here is 44.65. I'm not going to film all 16, but I'm going to check them now, and from then we're going to go on to another step. So next test will be checking the valve phase wear on those valves. It's going to be difficult to show. So valve face. So valve face is this area here. It's that edge here. And what Suzuki says is that the service limit is 0.5 millimeter. So if this is thinner than 0.5 millimeter, so let's measure it. Don't know if you can see this. Probably not, but right, let's check the other valve. So this is now time for the intake. So let's see, maybe you'll be able to see what I'm actually measuring here. So this is basically that edge here. So actually here I get about 0.8 of a millimeter. Next step, wrapping valves. So I'm going to start from this side. Well, actually, maybe I'm going to start from this side so you can see it better. Yeah, I'm going to start from this side. So this is my valve wrapping compound. There's two ends. This is the coarse end, this is the fine end. So I'm going to start with coarse. I'm just going to grab a tiny bit of it. And I'm just going to put it here on this face of the valve. As you can see, it's nicely covered. And now just making sure none of that compound gets on the valve stem. You would lube the stem real nicely. Put it in there. Apply some pressure. Lift it, change the position, and go again. Lift it, change the position, go again. Lift it, change the position. Let's take it out. Let's clean that valve. Let's also clean the seat. Again, making sure nothing gets inside. And now we can go ahead with the fine compound. Again, lube it nicely. Here it goes in. And we'll go ahead again. Take it out. So if you now take a closer look, you'll probably be able to see that we get this nice metallic outer edge. Let's clean the seat. Alright, let's then go ahead with another valve. This time the bigger valve, which is the intake. And same as before, we're going to go with the coarse paste first. Now some oil on the stem. we go. Alright, now going with the finer paste. And again, just lubing the stem, dropping the valve. Okay, alright, another round with fine compound, stem nicely lubed, and I think after this round this valve should feel okay. Alright, let's check this. Let's check the actual seat. Wipe it out. Okay, assuming this camera will catch it, I'm now going to try to show you. So this here is now this nice clean ring. Okay, going with another exhaust valve, so I'm going to put the compound on it. As always, lube the stem. Let's go ahead. With the exhaust valves I'm having a bit of a trouble because they're smaller and it's difficult to grab them. Okay, let's take it out. And let's see. Now that looks really, really good. You can see there's a clear silver impression. Well, here we have it. There we go. We've got a nice, lovely ring around that seat. Another intake valve to be done. There's a lovely clear impression of a silver ring. That's what we wanted. Let's check the seat. So now I'm showing you the nice ring here. Nice and clean. Beautiful. So now I'm going to continue with lapping all those valves. I'm not going to be so in depth with the rest of them because it's just the same process.
A few moments later.
So have a look at this. After all those valves have been lapped, you can see this nice silver ring here on the edge of the valve, and according to Suzuki's manual, the width of that ring should be about between 0.9 and 1.1 of a millimeter. So let's have a look what we've got on mine. And what we've actually got is 0.97 of a millimeter. Here's another measurement when it comes to valves, is the thickness of this valve stem, and Suzuki says that this should be not less than 4.465. So let's see what we get here. 4.47. So that one is okay. Here we've got a smaller valve, as you can tell. That was the intake, and now I'm going to measure the exhaust. And for the exhaust, they say it shouldn't be thinner than 4.455. So let's have a look. And we get 4.55. So that is, wow, actually this is quite surprising actually. Let's just measure it again. 4.54. This is like a brand new bloody valve. So I'm going to zero my caliper, grab next of those intake valves, and let's have a look what we get here. 4.47.